Thank you for joining me today on this program. I'm titling this program Politics. And, almost everything we do, it seems, in our nation, and the discussion we have at home or the discussion we have on the streets or in our businesses is what's going on in our nation today. Is it politics? How do we discuss politics? And I want to spend the next hour with you. I will take calls, and I'm looking for more of a discussion on how we can change things in our nation, what is going on, how is it affecting our citizens, and what are the big ticket items we face going forward in the next few months that all of us around the nation is concerned. And I want to address some of those issues today and answer your questions or look for inputs and ideas and how best, working together, we can take our country forward to an environment and an atmosphere and a development stage where what we all look forward to. This last week we were inundated with the discussion of the last few weeks and the last few months, the no confidence vote. And we know all of that has brewed many levels of discussion from, whether 33 is a majority, 34, mathematical issues, legal issues surrounding the no confidence vote. In my personal opinion, I will tell you right from the start, 33 is a majority of 65, and no mathematical change in the world can have that be termed 34. So it'd be very interesting. We all know in the last yesterday, the CCJ announced when that court case will take place. Late April into May. 10th May is the final hearing, and most of that discussion will go around what is in the Constitution, what is not in the Constitution, what determines a majority in our nation at the no confidence vote, and we are again reviewing what the Chief Justice said. Chief Justice said 33 is a majority. The Speaker said 33 is a majority. The government at the time said 33 is a majority. And then, we got a few lawyers that popped in and I believe it's delaying tactics that actually threw that 34, surprisingly, very surprisingly, and I think that's a debate around the nation right now, where the Court of Appeal, 2-1, ruled that 34 is a majority, and they add half and add one, and many of the discussions going on it's almost become a joke, where if you have 3 judges and you divide it by 2, it's 1.5, you add 1, that's 2.5, you round it up, it's 3. So did the appeal court pass? And that's more for for us to smile about, not for us to disagree with the judges. But in terms of whether I agree or I believe 34 is a majority, absolutely not. So in the current situation, I think we are all waiting for the CCJ to rule. But at the end of it all, if you think through the life cycle of the no confidence vote, on the 21st of December, the government was ruled out of office. It was not stayed throughout this process. So even though the ruling happened at the Court of Appeal, technically the government is still illegal. They're still not supposed to be where they're at. They're not supposed to hold parliament. They're not supposed to have contracts signed. And those are all issues that will come out after the CCJ ruling. I'm very confident and positive that we will have a positive ruling from the CCJ and allow our nation to move forward. So that's one of the big issues this week that has happened. And I think we could spend a lot of time discussing who is right, who is wrong, and the mathematical issues. But I think we have bigger issues to look at as we look forward to what will happen in Guyana going into an election mode, and even reviewing the past 4 years and looking and see, did Guyana develop? And again, those are the discussions I'm looking to have with you today, live, and for you to call in as soon as the phone lines are open. Then the second thing that happened this week, and we'll get through a little more in detail, is the fact that government, knowing that they have not done anything significant for you, the citizens of this nation, over the last 4 years decided this week they will set up some tents, air-conditioned tents, and they will move it 100 feet or so from the office of the president and have you come in and stand in lines waiting for them to tell you how they will be better. Now, there are two big issues with that I want to raise for you to think through before your call. If Peter Ramsaroop was a minister and I'm running a ministry and I'm running it in an efficient manner, when you visit my ministry, you should be able to get your problems resolved. Or based on the programs that are being implemented, those issues should be resolved. If now I'm going to tell you, you know what, I could not resolve it in my big building or big offices, all the staff that I have in the Ministry of Housing, but you know, the only way I'm going to be able to resolve that is I'm going to move my office to a tent. And I'll take my office chair, very posh office chair, very elite office chair. I'll sit in an air-conditioned tent. And I'm going to have you join a line down Homestretch Avenue, take a number, wait your turn. And by the time you come in to see me in my nice office chair in an air-conditioned tent, and you tell me that you applied for a house lot, or your water bill is high, or electric bill is high, or whatever the issues were, not healthcare, I'm not getting drugs in the hospital. And then I'm going to tell you, let's fill out the note. You turn to the staff next to you and says, you know what? Get that person to come into the office on Monday or Tuesday, and we'll see what we can do to resolve it. But I would have already waited, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours in that hot sun, waiting for you to tell me the same thing you could have told me if I come in your office. That's an inefficient. That's not bringing government to the people. That's bringing a farce, as I called it before in another program. It's bringing political gimmicks, as the opposition leader mentioned earlier, political gimmick. The fact, again, it's only 100 feet from Minister Harman's office, from the office of the president, that they will have you come. Why not allow you to come into the office of the president? Isn't that the citizens' right to visit the ministry and deal with their problems? Isn't the ministry supposed to be having programs that help the citizens? Not bringing government to the people and taking my office chair on the streets to tell you, you know what, here I am. So as you think that through, if you had your children, if you have to take your chair out of the living room and put it on the street to tell your children what discipline or what the program is for the next week, their schoolwork, because you couldn't do it inside your house, you would have failed as a parent. And that's what has happened over the last 4 years. The government has failed. So they're now trying to buy time through GCOM delays, which again is unconstitutional, and it's a delaying tactic for GCOM not to be doing what they're supposed to do based on the Constitution, giving the government a little extra time because they realize, and that's probably the only thing that I was happy about this week when I saw the outreach 100 feet from the office of the president, is that they have realized they don't have confidence in themselves. They don't have confidence sitting in their office in government anymore. They have voted themselves out of office and taken their chair to the streets. And that's probably the only thing I realize happened this week that I can smile about. But as we look past those events and we look forward to the CCJ ruling, we know we are past the date for an election. We know that the issues of tomorrow will be just the same in terms of, is GCOM getting ready? Why do we need to do a new house-to-house registration? The list is valid. 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old are on that list. And as the time comes, they roll into the system. If GRO and other agencies are functioning efficiently, if someone dies, That debt certificate goes to GCOM, and GCOM then takes a red pen and minus that name off the list. You print a new list. The dead people is not on the list. So is the GRO and the registration, whoever handles the death certificates, is that not functioning? Is that inefficient also to tell GCOM they need to have a new list? If people have an ID card and they still can vote, regardless of where they live, they're still eligible to vote. That's their constitutional right to vote for any party of their choice. So a new list definitely is not necessary. The list is valid up to the April 30th. What we need to do now that the time is running out, we do a claim and objections period. If your name is not on the list, you've changed your address, you are uncertain, you check the list, you go in and you get it fixed. And in weeks, that list will be well ready for an election. So as you listen to the gimmicks of GCOM, you've got to really sit back in your living room or wherever you're watching today and think through, is that something of a delaying tactic? Is it absolutely necessary that we go through and spend billions of our taxpayers' money on an exercise geared to make somebody rich out there in terms of contracting and other areas that will happen? No, it's inefficient. That's why December 21st, that no confidence vote happened. The fact that people, through their representatives, both from the PPP party and on the government side, that the MP that voted against them, realized that they have not delivered on their promises to the nation. The lies, the promises, the atmosphere, the party politics of only hiring their own people, doing the disregarding the new generation, the young generation that so much had looked forward to something that they were promised that they voted in 2015. Now all that has come to I call a head, where all of us realize that they have failed. The no confidence was just a reality that tells all of us that it's time for us to go back to the polls. It's time to review and analyze and compare. And I'll go through some of what was done before 2015 and what was done after 2015. And as you look at, even if the government tells you today, look what we have done. And I'll list some of these projects out. Look what we have done. The airport. In the PPP plan, prior to 2015, they raised the funds for the airport, $150 million. They had a design, architect, engineering diagrams ready to go. Work had started in some areas. It was supposed to be a brand new airport with 8 jetways. What you see today, and I just passed through the airport just a couple days ago. I don't know what word to describe, but it was atrocious, basically. The tiles have turned black. The ceiling is leaking. They renovated an old building. That building is decades old. The sewer system of the airport was supposed to be condemned and a new sewer system built. It's like you taking your funds and gonna try to rebuild your house, but you had very small posts and you want to put in a large concrete top. At some point that house will collapse. And no way you as an individual spending your money will make such a grave error. But the fact they did. They spent $180 million plus, and the airport is not something that you will be proud of. Yes, we have jetways, 4 out of 8. But when you walk through and you sit there in that departure lounge and you see those tiles just molded, the fungus on the beams, you have to wonder why, as citizens, we allow that. That's the nation concern. We can call it politics, we can call it inefficiency, we can call it failed government. But the end of the day, it's we as citizens that pays the price for that. I want to leave the lines open now, and as I go through some of this analysis, I'll look for your calls. And all I ask for your calls is be clean, make it a discussion. It's not about personal bashing of any individual. I think we can bash policies, we can bash government for not delivering, but let's keep it clean. That's all I ask as we go through this live program. The other part that on the projects that are being done, I started on describing what they will tell you they have done for Guyana over the last 4 years. The West Bank Road over the river. That, again, was funded, was started. They have implemented the final phase of the project. There are a few other projects out there that they have talked about. The Mocha Road to Ogle, that has already been funded under the PP government and hasn't even been started. So in 4 years, they have not delivered a single new project that will transform Guyana to the environment we look forward to. As oil come on stream, the projects and the build up to these other industries needed to happen within this 5 years. None of that has happened. And I will tell you that we are now 3 years behind on many of the key ingredients for Guyana to take off with the oil, not just with the oil money, but what the new industries will be. And I'll go through some of that also as we go on in the program. And again, the phone line is open, I believe. And so when you look at the comparison, if this government has only been able to implement the PPP projects that were left, and they have not brought any new projects to the table, what happens post 2019, 2020 when oil revenues come? Yesterday the finance minister announced, I think, 4.1 growth in our economy. And, the numbers sound great. I'm sure there's some backup economic indicators that may tell him that he did have some growth. But what is the true measurement of economics in our nation? What is the true measurement? The true measurement is, do you have disposable money in your pocket? At the end of the month, when you pay your bills, your mortgage, your car payment, your electricity, your water, you buy your children groceries and your household groceries, do you have money left over that you could put in a savings account for future? If you don't, then the economy has not grown. If you are not able to buy a car as you did prior to 2015, or expand your house, or build a new house, or the housing program that was under the 2015 program before 2015, and you haven't done that, and you haven't had disposable funds to be able to put up, then the economy is not growing. If you have looked around and see 30,000 people out of work, 7,000 alone in the sugar industry or plus, out of work, not knowing where their money comes from tomorrow, and come tomorrow, how then would you say the economy grew? Ask Minister Jordan, if you see him. Ask him, how did it grow if I can't do those things? I'm out of work. 30,000 people out of work. When you look at other things, and going back to some of the indicators of whether you believe the economy is grew. When you look at your water bill, as we go around the country, I've been traveling around with our presidential candidate, Mr. Fanali. And one of the things we hear throughout the nation is the water bill has gone up. How did the water bill suddenly go up? electricity with VAT and water for pensioners, and all of us have gone up. We are not making a single dime more than we were making prior to 2015. We're not making any more money. But yet, taxes, hundreds of taxes. I think the number that we have calculated is close to 200 taxes, including license fees and other areas that have gone up. But we're not making any more money. You're still making that same salary. Businesses are suffering. Some of them are closing. Working capital has been diminished. Bank loans can be paid. The dream of that new car, of that new home doesn't exist anymore. And with that, you would have a minister that basically said, the economy is doing great. The economy is doing great because they're spending your money. They're spending your money on air-conditioned tents. Somebody had to move all those fancy chairs to the Square of the Revolution for that political gimmick. Who's paying the bill for the air-conditioned tents? Who's paying the bill for renting of the tents? Aren't you already paying through your taxes for government buildings, for nice offices, for nice chairs, for staff, public servants? Aren't you already paying that bill? Did you ask any of those ministers to take your money and spend it on tents and air condition and trucks to move the chairs? Did you ask them to put you in a hot sun? And you know, when you see whether it's 500 people or 1,000 people, and it could be 50,000 people showed up on that Homestretch Avenue this week, you know what that tells all of us? That the government has failed. The fact that they have to have you come out and beg them to deliver services that they're hired to do, they're paid to do, you elected them to do. That shows you the complete incompetence and failure of the current government in managing. And you can say, Peter, you're bashing hard. I can't, I'm not. You look around the businesses, you look around people's households, you know, when you go to some of the street corner vendors, some in some of the villages especially, you know, they got a nice little shop. They barely make a few money to, you know, keep the household going. And you got GRA coming and giving them 700,000 back taxes. You know, when you look at the tears in those people's eyes, you know, I can tell from a little shop, you know, if they make enough to pay the bills and have a little extra money from selling little goods in the village, I can say, well, you know what, we ought to tax those people more. But when GRA shows up, you know, looking for the TIN number, looking for $700,000 bill in past taxes, that ruins that little cake shop or little entrepreneurial business in that village. That's not how we need to operate. We have to have social justice, social economics. Taxes is important. You know, I believe in the tax system. We have to have a fair tax system. Not describing that, but you have a fair tax system and you increase rates and taxes as the economy grows. The economy is not growing. Money is not flowing. Foreign investors now, with the uncertainty that we're faced because of the no confidence vote, the uncertainty that the fact that most foreign investors know they cannot sign. They shouldn't sign a single contract with this government because it will be an illegal contract. So they're not bringing money into the nation. Money is not flowing. And with that, you are not getting that extra money. So in economics, the more money that is disposed of, the more it turns over. And as it turns over, we all get a chance to get a piece of that. And government also gets a good piece of that, those taxes from you spending your money. So the economics of the growth doesn't exist. So government has failed over the last 4 years. I go back quickly to the unemployment. And you look at, I want to talk a little bit of sugar industry. I know the politicians and the business leaders in the private sector has discussed this over the years, and or over the last few years. When you have such a large industry and you're going to shut it down, one, without an alternative plan, two, without creating new industries where people can be shifted, in St. Kitts and a few other countries over the years that have shut sugar. I mean, I went to St. Kitts a few years ago when they were going through that process. You know what they did? They set up massive technology centers and they start retraining those sugar workers to work in different environments. So as they closed the sugar industry, those people were shifted over. What we had in our 2015 plan, even if sugar was going in different directions, one, you would have diversified sugar. You would have created new industries such as ethanol. And, DDL, for example, imported, 14 million, whatever dollars or tons of molasses over the last year. Imagine our own country that they have to import molasses for their needs, for their supply chain, for what they do. Again, where was government? And what happened when you close an industry such as that? Your foreign reserve goes down. Exchange rates or exchange dollars goes away because you're not bringing in foreign money anymore. So the PPP left $665 million in the Bank of Guyana in 2015, or $685 million. That reserve is for 3 months, given any crisis that Guyana may have. You don't spend that money. Most of that money is gone. They've spent it. Where did it go? Did you see any of it? No. And with that failure, it is not that again, this topic is what politics in Guyana. It is not make up. I'm not making it up. The PPP is a party and other politicians are not making this thing up. This is real issues that you are discussing in your living room today. Why and where did this money go? And if you look at the corruption, we know corruption word has been around, and over the years, even in my past, growing up as a young politician, I was very adamant about corruption. I think corruption is something that we have to tackle at all different levels in our nation over time. But what I've seen, people say that the previous administration were corrupt. And I'll address that in here. Forensic audits were done, massive, hundreds of millions of dollars spent. And you look at the frivolous charges, none of those describe corruption. And so after that, you would think, well, this current government didn't see any corruption. You know what? Maybe we have a clean society. And then they'll spend $1 billion in Durban Park. And I repeat this, I was sitting in Parliament when Minister Joe Harmon was delivering a speech. And he said, the greatest achievement of this current government is the building of Durban Park. State of the art. He used the term state of the art in numerous sentences. And I drove by the next morning and I took a few people with me and I said, wow, if this is state of the art, Guyana is in deep trouble. When we have a beautiful stadium built in 2006 for the World Cup, still active today, you drive by Durban Park and the wood is rotting, the paint is nasty, the environment is not cohesive and for our citizens to be in. And that's your premier project as a government. So I want to correct myself. When I said the government has done nothing, they did one thing. They built Durban Park for $1 billion of your money. And what does that do for a country? Nothing. Nothing. It has to be torn down. Bulldoze for that to even be effective. That's prime land. That could be put to many other use. Do we need a stadium for soldiers to march and salute the president? Nah. We're not a military nation. We don't need to have that salute happen. And that was the whole purpose that Tarmac probably was built, for someone to get a salute, to make it look like we have a military government. We don't. We are a democratic society that is working to the betterment of our nation, and we've got to do better as a people. And we've got to stand up and ensure that things like Durban Park, the corruption, never takes place again. I'll slow down on my overview analysis, and I want to listen to your calls. I think there's a call coming in. Let me take that. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm enjoying your program.
Thank you.
And this is a great initiative that you're doing to address these issues that we're all very aware of. My question for you is, do you think our country has any hope, given how stagnated our economy has become under this current government for the past 4 years since they've been in power? Like you mentioned, zero new projects, everything was initiated under the PPP. What is your take on this particular view?
Thank you. I'll answer your question here. The point being, is there hope for a nation? And the answer is yes, there's hope for a nation. And I travel around with Mr. Fanali, our presidential candidate for the PPP, over the last few months. His track record in Guyana, working as a Minister of Housing. I was able to, first time over the last week, get a tour of the housing area in one area, the back of Echoes, and it was miles long. And I watched all of that development that happened over the last few years prior to 2015. You have people with big houses, you have people with medium-sized houses, you have a low-income area, roads develop, electricity, water, people thriving to now upgrade their house to a better. So there is hope. I mean, those programs just have to be reinstated. The government has done zero development, zero housing development over the last 4 years, zero. There's hope. The other part, that while I'm talking about our presidential candidate, a great economist, understands the future of our nation. What you need in leadership, in any nation, in any company, in our own household, is vision and understanding of how to grow your economy. What I said about Minister Jordan over the last few years, he's a great accountant. He is good at taking money, keeping it on the books, and maybe spending it on frivolous projects. But that doesn't going to get us anywhere. You're going to still be making the same amount of money you made 10 years ago. What you need is an investment banker. You've got to invest your money back into our country. You have to figure out things how to grow it. Dr. Jagdeo, for example, when he created the Berbice Bridge, people said, well, why are you spending all that money on the Berbice Bridge? But that Berbice Bridge was an investment in growing our economy. How? You were able then to cross over in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, with a truck, less than that, instead of waiting 4 hours with a boat. Now a truck can drive multiple times across that bridge from Georgetown to Riverton, 2-3 times, maybe 2 times at least a day. That saved goods and services, and that increased cash flow money to those businesses. That's an investment. Spending our money that the minister did this week on tents, on Durban Park, on fancy chairs and fancy offices, that's an accountant, basically trying to run the company, trying to run the business. No vision, zero vision. Ms. Ali brings to the table going forward a hardworking individual with energy, young energy. I go back trying to think, boy, I wish I could be young again, because I love that energy. And he's going to deliver our hope, along with a team, a good project that we can go forward. I just missed that call, sorry. But, as we, hello? Hello, I'm here.
Peter, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have seen a look at German statement on national television about people who are not registered for this household register.
Mm-hmm.
Then can't vote. I want to know if me named up on the voters list, right?
Yes.
I'm going to show after 2 weeks and they come home and name me in there. And they come up there and can't get a vote. This is a democratic idea, also where they want to know the list.
And that's unconstitutional. You have a right. You're on that list. You're already on that list. You're already verified. You haven't moved. You may travel and be gone for a week or two. And if you've got to come back and look and find out they mark your name off the list, I tell citizens, be very, very cautious of what's going on.
Because there's a democratic way. I'm a Chinese. You live in America over here. Once I register this country to vote, and I go anywhere, I can come back for vote. You can't stop me, there's a democratic way.
Yes, I agree. And I think Dr. Jagdeo in his press conference this week really explicitly described the fact that the PP, for example, is not supporting a house registration. We think it's a gimmick again. It's a delaying tactic. It is not necessary. And it's not necessary for us to waste billions, $5 billion of our taxpayers' money on an exercise that doesn't need to happen.
What I'm saying, I want to see election already. But what I'm saying, the house being at the primary, but what I'm saying, if I'm a Chinese by vote and my name is on the voter's list, and when the person house section and I'm not there, and I go for a vacation, I come back, and my name is not on the list, I struck out my name is on the list, and I have to validate it, and I supposed to vote.
I agree. Yes. And we're going to be very cognizant. I mean, I think citizens, and you're listening, all of us, thank you for your call. I think all of us sitting in listening to this program and listening to what is going on in our nation, the political environment, we cannot allow certain, politicians are politicians, and we'll say a lot of things. But the fact is, as citizens, we've got to stand up and say no also. The fact is, we're not going to allow house registration. I'm already on the list. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't move. If I move, I'm supposed to go into GCOM and let them know that I moved from Eccles to Quarantine or wherever else I would have moved. You normally would do that in the claims and objection period. Why again do I need to be told and verify that I'm on the list? And I mentioned at the start of the program, not to allow that. Hello, can I help you?
Hello, Mr. Ramsaroop.
Yes.
I'm a listener, a regular listener to this program, and I'm concerned about what's going on in our country. And congratulations to the top explain to the Guyanese public that they know we're really going on. And my contribution is that present government, they are your part, and they didn't show any improvement during their stay in government, and they should give it up nicely. They failed. The previous government, they take it so far and leave it, and they make everything go down the drain. The president, Granger, never come out to tell the nation, give us comfort, something good word about the Guyanese. Everybody feeling the squeeze and must come out and say something and do something big.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And
Thank you.
And all the parts let him fail.
Thank you. And I can tell you again, as we travel around the country, sentiments like that, we hear that consistently. Again, people did give the coalition an opportunity. And in any politics around the world, government changes, people mind changes, voting pattern changes, and people did vote for the coalition government based on promises, taking care of young people, not affecting the pensioners. These guys came into office, and immediately, we know, we'll repeat it over and over, raise their salaries. Ministers have been making the same salary for decades, no one complained. They raised the salaries prior to even doing any work. You know, if I go into a company and I go in and they start me at $1,000 and suddenly so the next day I said I want $5,000, I'll get fired. And that's what this government did. Let me take this call, I'll come back. Sorry, lost it. And I would get fired because, wait a minute, I hired you at $1,000. You said, elect me, and I'll take $1,000 and I'll work for you. A couple days later, they give themselves a pay raise. That failure started at that point. At that point, I think we all knew that there's no way they can recover after that. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Ramsaroop. One thing, are we going to allow the dual citizens to go back to Parliament? And you elaborate on that?
Okay, thanks for the question. What is interesting about that dual citizen discussion, and I'll break it down on my perspective. The Attorney General, Basil Williams, knew that quite a few of his MPs in the government sides were dual citizens. Mr. Harman, Mr. Greenwich, a couple others, and on the PP side there's a few, knew that those folks were dual citizens. Yet he took a case to the courts that says Mr. Charandas' dual citizenship his vote should not be valid. Then why should Minister Harman vote be valid? That means if you minus all of that, they lost the no confidence vote more than 33-32, because Minister Harman vote would have been invalid, Minister Greenwich's vote would have been invalid, the others would have been invalid. So why did he do that? Is it personal? Did he want all of his competitors potentially for the next future nominee of the PNC for him to be the only one that is not a dual citizen that is in the running? I don't know. I'll leave it at that. But the fact is, it has come to light that dual citizens should not be MPs. And it's a constitutional document that basically said that. So you have to. You cannot go back to Parliament as an MP now. You will have to now resign. And if we're able to change the law, if the two sides can come together and says, well, maybe dual citizenship, given our large diaspora out of Guyana that exists, we should allow dual citizenship to be part of our political system. I don't ever believe a dual citizenship should ever be president of the country, but if they can be involved in the political system, then yes. But the fact is, we can't change that now. The Constitution has to be changed. Both sides have to get together. So right now it's illegal, and they should not and cannot go back to Parliament. And someone will file a case that says everything that is being done now going forward is illegal. And it's illegal for the government to go back to Parliament. They are not a legal government at this point. One court said they shouldn't be there. The Speaker said they shouldn't be there. The legislature, Parliament said they should not be there. One court says, well, maybe they should be there. There's one final court. So technically, until that final court rule, they should not be in government. They should not be in Parliament. And so it has to be dealt with. And the blatancy of that response from Minister Harman says, they're going back. They don't care. But yet the Attorney General of this government filed a case against Mr. Charandas that his vote is illegal because he has dual citizenship. It's double standards, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, double standards. We cannot allow double standards to go through. Deal with it right. And again, it's a failure of this government to manage our country, to take laws they want, laws they don't want, spend our money where they want, spend our money where they don't want. Who suffers? We as citizens. Yes, can I help you?
Mr. Ramsaroop, just a quick observation, right?
Um, Mr. Chandas has dual citizenship requirement, right? And it's not accepted his vote. Are you listening to me?
Yes, I'm listening. Very clear.
Now, on the government side, they have so many of them with dual citizenship. So their vote should not be counted too. So,
And that's what I just said. I said, it said if you have a court case against a dual citizen, then all the votes can be counted. And they would lose the no confidence vote even worse. So, I mean, if they want to rule on that, I mean, if you minus 3 more from the 32 that voted yes or no, then they will be down to 28. So they really should be out of government.
I don't know if coming up with all these crazy figures, right?
Yes. But I think the issue has to be resolved, but it cannot be resolved until a new government and a new parliament convenes and constitutional reform takes place, changes happen. You know, that
to happen, believe me.
Yes. So good. Appreciate your thoughts. Thank you. So as we look forward to May timeframe when the courts again will be dealing with this matter, we as citizens got to now not debate, but take action. It's for us to take action. We have now agreed the government has failed. They have agreed, and we have agreed that we have no confidence in them. I go back to the session this week where they took their offices on the streets. They believe too that they have no confidence in themselves. And so over the next month to the CCJ, let's get ready. Let's put our minds together. Let's look at the plans going forward in the future. Let's think through what Guyana is going to be post-2019. Let's look at the leadership that will be required to take this nation forward, the future of our country, and the hope that we need. And we definitely know that it's not this government. Failure of such magnitude, you don't get a second chance. None. We can go back now pre-2015, look at the plans that have taken place over the last decades and go forward and realize that we've got to move forward with new hope. Yes, can I help you?
Yeah, instead of all this discussion about this dual citizen business, would it not be wise for somebody to file an injunction in the court against this minister and name Mr. Granger as a party, because he being the leader, he should stop these people from going back to Parliament, so he should be a part of the lawsuit also. And let the court make another ruling and stop them, because these people will not stop by themselves.
Well, I mean, thank you. I believe the government said they're going back to Parliament on the 12th of April, some date in the near future. And I think a lot of things will happen at that point. If they do, one, they should not be going back to Parliament. Parliament really doesn't exist anymore. March 21st, the 3 months is gone. So they're illegally going back to Parliament. For what reasons? The opposition has said they're not going back to Parliament until the CCJ ruling. And there's been no stay in government. And right now, the government, in my mind, I'm not a legal mind, but I believe they are sitting wrongfully in government. We ought to be planning for election. We ought to have a date for elections. If the CCJ rule one way or the other, doesn't matter. GCOM charter is to always be ready. You put failing people that don't even understand what GCOM title means as the chairman and other leadership within the GCOM area, you got to wonder why we're in this crap we're dealing with in our nation. Our politics is all messed up. The fact is, you know, the leadership of this current government did discard the young people. I'm proud that the PPP picked a 38-year-old candidate for the next government, because you need someone to grow with our nation. Those new minds are more brilliant than some of us with gray hairs now. And much as those were multiple gray hairs, you know, the great grandfathers, yes, they have wisdom, but they have no energy. They have not kept up with the new environment. Could they even go on Facebook Live? Could they discuss technology improvement? Did they discuss new initiatives? No. They lived in a different era. Our young generation ought to be taking over a nation. And I like that, and I've always said it over the years, if I sit in my rocking chair, I want to know that that young person got me, and they'll make sure I have a better life. And so when our pensioners got looked around, they saw pensioners in government. And they thought, wow, pensioners in government, maybe the young people is going to be discarded, but maybe we'll be taken care of. What did they get? Bath and water and electricity. Subsidies cut for their families, their grandchildren, no school grants. They look at their grandkids and realize what? No uniform allowances. People around the hinterland lost their jobs. That excitement when they won, when this government raised their salaries without delivering a single project to you, and then 4 years later, having been paid on the potential that they will deliver on those promises, that has failed. We should ask for our money back. Fire them and ask for our money back. And come the date for election, I think we have that opportunity to fire this current government. Yes, can I help you?
Yeah, Ramsaroop.
Yes.
You're back in, man.
Say that again?
When you back in,
What?
you and I can't come by. You know you can't come tonight like them.
Okay, why can't I come? Anyway, he left, said I can't come. Not sure. Did I make a mistake on 4 years of inefficiency, ineffective, poor governance, failed government? I don't think so. I think my 4 years definition, I'm right. I did count right. And as the program comes to an end over the next few minutes, I'll take 1 or 2 more calls, and I want to wrap up on there is hope. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I feel the government and the parliament are all in parliament and the counting of the vote, the counting a person or a thing, the divider, the negative division based on like a property or furniture, which is half and half. But you cannot count a person as half, a person as a whole. So that's my contribution to you. Think about that. It's not a land, it's not a property dividing it half and half. A human being, every human being got to count as a whole. So when the man votes, he did not vote a half man. Cannot be a half man. The vote could not be a half vote. So that's my contribution.
Thank you. And that number discussion is before the courts. You know, we all have our opinion. 33 is the majority of 65. And hopefully the court rule that we have a majority. 33 is the number that every mathematician around the world, every textbook, you Google, type in, if you get a chance on your computer right now, go to Google, type in the majority of 65. Type in the word absolute majority of 65, which is not in our Constitution, by the way. Type in simple majority of 65. And every one of those answers will end up being 33. How could anyone else of learned minds come up with 34 is fascinating. Again, yes, can I help you? Yes, ma'am.
What stage that with the case with the GCOM chairman? Could you please enlighten that?
Okay, I didn't follow all of the proceedings yesterday, but I believe the GCOM chairman issue is before the CCJ, and that should be heard very soon, that the president did unilaterally appoint GCOM chairman. And, you know, I will make an assumption, and this is Peter Ramsaroop's assumption. You know, if you appoint people directly, they have an allegiance to you. It's not an independent person sitting in GCOM. If now the president had taken any one of the 18 people Dr. Jagdeo presented as the opposition leader to Mr. Granger, then none of us could have complained that the person wasn't independent. The fact is, if I appoint you, if I hire you, I can tell you, you know what, I want you to sit in that corner, I want you to be independent. But at the end of the day, I'm paying your salary. At the end of the day, you work for me. And I'll tell you what to do. Is that what's happening with GCOM chairman right now? Because, wait a minute, common sense is an independent body, do the right thing. The Constitution says you should have called the election. Constitution said, get ready, be always ready. You're getting paid every day in that office. All those staffers, all those workers, you're being paid every day to be ready to run an election in our nation. What is this crap about we're not ready? Then what have you been doing over the last 4 years? Why are you taking our taxpayers' money? Think of it. Think of it. Why are they taking our taxpayers' money over the last 4 years? And to tell us 4 years later, we're not ready for elections. We've had many claims and objection period over the last 4 years. The lists have been sanitized. We had a very successful local elections. And you're not ready for general elections? That's a lie. We've got to stop listening to the political rhetoric coming from government and from these agencies. We cannot allow the citizens, and we've got to move forward. Take one last call or two, and then we have to close the program. Hello?
Yeah, you can't come. I don't know what you could do why. You can't even get good reason. You can't really accept one from God. You will say it ain't right for me. It ain't right for you neither.
Okay.
It's right for you.
Thank you. I can't count. I really got to study that one. But thanks for the call. Yes, hello.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
I like how your voice is so decent and tidy. But you know what I discover? That you're not building on deception, or you're trying to build on betrayal. And I feel that's not good for our nation. Too much deception.
Thank you.
Too much betrayal.
Thank you. I think reality overrides deception. Reality overrides deception. Am I, in my talk today, deceive you that the government has failed? Did I deceive you that we have 200 plus taxes in our system? Did I deceive you that young people have been discarded? Did I deceive you that taxes is now on our water, electricity, and pensioners are suffering? Did I deceive you that the government corrupted practice of the urban park, $1 billion? The Auditor General said that money can be found and accounted for, not Peter Ramsaroop, the Auditor General of our nation. Did I deceive you? Have you looked around and could you tell me one project that the government has delivered on that is their project? And even the ones they delivered on that were the PP projects, airport as a good example, was that done right? $35 million on truckloads of sand when Guyana is known for sand. You're going to pay $7,000 a truckload for sand when we could have, get our own people to do it for less, just a few miles from the sand pit. Come on, that's not deception. And as we think through, and again, the reason why the title of the program is politics. Politics, real politics, is for us to debate and discuss and to base our assumptions and our analysis on facts. And my biggest piece is you have to base it on your life. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Is our country better off today than we were 4 years ago? Are you paying more money out of your pocket for things you should not be paying? Are you making more money at this point? Do we have no confidence in our government? Yes, we do. Elections will happen soon. The PPP, for example, have a great plan of how we will increase new job markets, how we will create numbers of tens of thousands of new jobs. You just have to look at some of the teleperformance and some of the other industries that came in over the last decade, how many new jobs those created. Imagine continuing that and increasing it rapidly. We look at large projects we will bring on the board. Deepwater Harbor, the road to Brazil, transformative industries in our tourism, increase in our rice production, relooking at sugar and implementing back the industry to diversify, to bring people new jobs and new industries. That is hope. And I'm excited the fact that at least we have hope that Guyana will be better this next round. Things will change, things will be done better, and I believe all of us will enjoy the future that we look forward to. And I thank you for joining me. I'm back on Tuesday night at 8 to 8:30 to have some interviews with some young people to help me describe what is going on in our nation. Thanks for joining, and see you next Saturday for another live discussion of politics.